Is this even real? 50 seconds is a lifetime in Formula One. Yet Lewis Hamilton crossed the line nearly 50 seconds behind Charles Leclerc at the 2025 Monaco Grand Prix. It sounds impossible on a street circuit built for champions, but the stats don't lie. Hamilton ended the race P5, a distant fifth under the checkered flag, after a horror weekend in the Principality. How did a seven-time world champion find himself so far adrift on home soil? Stick around, because the story only gets wilder. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and smash that like button so you don't miss a single twist. Is Ferrari failing Lewis? Or is he simply out of gas? Drop a comment with your take below. Qualifying in Monaco was its own saga. Charles Leclerc looked bulletproof all weekend, topping every practice session and almost snatching pole at his home race. In the end, it was McLaren's Lando Norris on pole, Leclerc a whisker off in P2, his season best in Ferrari red. Hamilton, meanwhile, struggled badly. He could only manage a mid-pack qualifying, and to rub salt in the wound, he was slapped with a three-place grid penalty for impeding Max Verstappen. So Lewis actually started the race P7. That meant Ferrari's Saturday drama, a rare Q2 exit here and in Imola, left their starman choking on the grid. Race day chaos reigned from the off. Hamilton's race engineer got it all wrong on the radio. Lewis was falsely told Max was on a hot lap, then got tagged with a penalty for impeding him. The fallout was instant confusion over the airwaves, with Hamilton practically shouting, "Who am I fighting out here?" as he tried to make sense of it all. The strategy then collapsed. Ferrari double-stinted Lewis on hards, but by his second pit stop he had lost so much time that Oscar Piastri easily leapfrogged him. In a flash, he had slipped to the back of the top five, the seven-time champ flat out off the pace on a track he normally loves. And let's not forget the psychological pressure cooker that is Monaco. It's a place where confidence can either elevate a driver to god-tier status or completely destroy their rhythm. Hamilton, once the master of mind games, now looked unsure. Watching him ask, "Who am I fighting?" on the radio felt surreal. This is the man who outwitted Vettel, Rosberg, and even Verstappen at their peak. And yet, on the narrow streets of Monte Carlo, he seemed like a man still searching for his identity in Ferrari red. The ghost of his dominant Mercedes years still haunts every corner he takes, and that shadow is getting harder to shake. Behind the scenes, whispers in the paddock are only getting louder. Some insiders claim Hamilton's engineers are struggling to find the right balance for his driving style, which doesn't gel with the current aero package Ferrari has tailored more toward Leclerc. Others are pointing fingers at the communication breakdowns, saying Ferrari's radio calls have been disastrous since preseason testing. When strategy fails and pace disappears, all that's left is the driver's trust in the team. And from what we saw in Monaco, that trust might be crumbling faster than anyone expected. Could internal tension be bubbling beneath the surface? And here's a juicy twist. F1's new 2026 regulation changes are looming large, and everyone's fighting for influence behind closed doors. If Hamilton doesn't turn his form around soon, there's growing fear among tifosi that Ferrari might pivot their entire development focus around Leclerc. It's a brutal game of politics mixed with performance. Could this season be the beginning of a quiet power shift inside Maranello, one where Hamilton finds himself sidelined in favor of a younger, faster, more Ferrari-bred teammate? Stay locked in, because this story is far from over. And that's when the pundits poured fuel on the fire. Sky F1's Bernie Collins didn't mince words. Hamilton's lack of pace was more worrying than any radio mix-up. On the F1 show, she laid it out. Lewis just wasn't able to push and stay with them, she said, which is surprising given how much Lewis loves Monaco. He seemed much more confident than Leclerc, so that is more worrying for me than the qualifying radio stuff. Ouch. Suddenly, it wasn't just a bad weekend. It looked like Hamilton was genuinely off his game. Smash that like if you think Collins nailed it, or let us hear why you think she's overreacting. Contrast Hamilton's afternoon with Leclerc's revival. Charles was absolutely flying. Not only did he nearly snag pole, he actually carried that speed into the race. Leclerc came home P2, bossing the pace to the tune of 50 seconds ahead of his teammate. Every lap the gap grew, as if Charles had been in the Silver Arrows and Hamilton suddenly in a charter plane. The Ferrari pit wall must have been buzzing. One driver is in God mode, the other is asking if the engineer is upset with him. The image of those two teammates could not have been more different. Leclerc, the smiling hometown hero, Hamilton, the man in crisis. What on earth happened to Lewis out there? And here's a juicy bit that hasn't been talked about enough. Insiders claim that Hamilton's feedback on Ferrari's SF25 setup is frequently being overruled. That's right, the man with 103 Grand Prix wins, the guy who defined an era at Mercedes, is reportedly getting sidelined in strategy meetings. Some engineers, still rooted in the Leclerc camp, are said to be resistant to adapting the car's characteristics to Hamilton's unique driving style. If that's true, it's not just a car problem. It's a political minefield inside Maranello, and the cracks are starting to show. And let's not forget the fans. Hamilton's Tifosi support was supposed to ignite like wildfire, but so far, it's been a flicker. Many of the die-hard Red Army still see him as an outsider. Every mistake, every tenth he's off the pace, is magnified and dissected with brutal intensity. And that's pressure like no other. We're not just watching Hamilton drive a Ferrari, we're watching him fight for belonging, in a team, in a system, and in a narrative that was never written with him in mind. Adding to the soap opera, veteran commentator David Croft even hinted on air that maybe Lewis was holding back to help Leclerc. The implication? Perhaps Hamilton was sandbagging, letting Ferrari's #1 through. Collins snapped back that Lewis was literally alone on track. No one was directly behind Lewis. He was in no man's land, mid-race. In other words, this wasn't some noble teammate act. It was a full-on mystery. Crowd's verdict. Do you buy Croft's theory or side with Collins that Lewis simply lost his edge? Sound off in the comments. We want the fight to rage. Look back a bit, and it's not all doom and gloom for Lewis this season. Remember the Shanghai sprint? A few weeks ago, Hamilton was gloating after grabbing P2. The best result I've had in a long time, he cheered, calling Mercedes' progress a huge improvement. And in Miami's rain-sodden sprint, he salvaged a podium, third place, thanks to a perfect early pit call from Ferrari. That race was chaos, red flags and all, and Hamilton did damage control to finish third. So the old Hamilton still has flashes of brilliance. The leap from China's silver lining to Monaco's abyss is a cliff only a superhero could navigate. Which begs the question, is Hamilton wounded, or is Ferrari's package dragging him down? Now all eyes turn to Spain, a circuit where Hamilton has been nothing short of king. Barcelona is his playground. Between 2017 and 2021, he was unbeaten there, a 5-year streak of dominance. Even in Mercedes' down years, he still landed on the podium at Catalunya, first or second most years. Last year, he chased down Verstappen to grab second in a thrilling duel, and he was back on the podium again in 2024. So, if any track can reboot his season, it's Barcelona. The question is, can Ferrari fix whatever ails him on track overnight? Or will Lewis find the magic he lost in Monaco? We'll be dissecting every lap of that redemption story next, and you know we live for it. All right, loyal pit crew, now it's your turn. Do you think this nightmare at Monaco is Ferrari's fault for giving Lewis the wrong tools? Or is Lewis simply off the boil in 2025? Sound off below. Like, subscribe, and comment if you're ready to tell Ferrari or Hamilton exactly what you think. Remember, this channel brings you daily deep dives on the steamy controversies and strategy games of F1. So buckle up and stay tuned for the Barcelona GP preview coming next. Hit that bell so you don't miss it. We'll see you on track.